Good morning and welcome to Live at the Legislature, where every week we talk about the issues and happenings down at the state capitol to keep you informed of what we're doing and what's going on. We're lucky this morning to have with us Representative Ty Cullen, who represents a bunch of communities from Royal Kunia to Village Park, to Waipahu, Makakilo, Westlock, Honouliuli, and O'Opili. I hope I got those correct, Representative.
No, that is correct. I also have Village Park. I'm one that wants to really tell the community where they're from. So, growing up in the area, it's important to acknowledge because sometimes when people refer, I know the old reference rather than the new reference.
Well, welcome. It's great that you're here today. And you are also the vice chair of the House Finance Committee, which is very important every year, but this year more so with all the things going on. But let's start with talking about your district. You obviously, like you said, you grew up out there and you're very proud of that area. But with our adjusting to COVID-19 and what people are going through, can you fill us in a little bit on what's happening out there as we wait for the new normal to take place? What are people wearing their masks? Do they need help out there? What's going on?
Thank you, James, for that question. It's so as we continue to move through the pandemic, the district, the community has been very mindful. We understand that the shutdown uh, earlier was, regarding from the governor, was to ensure that our healthcare system wasn't overburdened. I have two sisters who are nurses, and it was very important that they can continue to provide healthcare and to the individuals that needed those services. And as we can see, we moved to where we are stable and very able to provide healthcare throughout the state. And one of the things that when I hear in the community, and I got to thank those that are still working at Costco and Walmart, because without them, having those stores open so we can buy and purchase the goods that we need to on day in and day out. So when we think about it and stuff, when we receive emails from the community communication, when they call our office, one of the great things that I continue to hear, even as I walk in the stores and talk to individuals, is that they take it as a we thing. So it's when the cases were low, the numbers per day, it was like, yeah, we're doing really good. We as a community, we as a state are winning against this pandemic. We are making the steps there. And then even the point where I go into Bank of Hawaii in Kunia, which just opened 3 weeks ago, and we talk about, when I'm talking to my constituents there, and you see everybody practicing social distancing. You have the sneeze guards up with the plexiglass. So not only are individuals practicing it, but the businesses themselves within our community are doing it too. And it's very exciting when you have individuals saying, "Oh, look," and there was the bump in cases this past week, but it's just a reminder that we continue to use face coverings, wash our hands, practice social distancing. It's some of the things that we are going to move in this new normal. Us here, look at us, we're doing live at the legislature on via webcam and computer. So that's the new normal.
Yeah, that's the way things are going, right? Now you're pretty much for the most part, a residential community out there. Are people, they're staying at home more, but are they making use of things like the school lunches and the food donation programs? Have you seen any of that?
Yes, yes. So during this time, stay-at-home order, safe-at-home order. We were hearing from constituents regarding some concerns about their own food supply within their homes, and also was able to volunteer at Aloha Stadium, volunteer with the Farm Bureau, volunteer at food drops that was at Waipio Soccer Complex in Waipahu. So a lot of volunteer work, even with Croc Center, how they were providing food to community. Got to thank the not just the individual, all the volunteers that was there, and also we had the grab and go lunches and breakfast, which was heavily used by constituents. When I volunteered there, I was able to say hello to many of them, and it was great we could provide that. They continue to have lunches for students at August Arns and at within Waipahu Elementary. So it's a good program that continues so that we have students and youth that are fed in our community.
Well, thank you for doing that. It's a little scary almost when you have to get out in the public, but those people need help so much. Thank you. Now, in your community and across the state, we're also looking at diversifying our economy. Tourism is not going to come back right away. So lawmakers are thinking ahead and have been for a while. What's going on out in your district that helps with diversification?
Well, so we are doing, and before the pandemic, really struck the state, I believe, we had a diverse economy. Just some areas needed to be more robust. So one of the things we were doing pre-COVID was actually working with UH West Oahu and developing the creative media program. As a state, we invested over $33 million to UH West Oahu to build a creative media building, which actually is set to open, this fall.
Oh,
And to offer that degree. But what mainly is the highlight of it is actually the trickle down effect, where we have at Waipahu High School and at Waianae High School. I'll focus on Waipahu right now, is where we have, they have had over 2 years a MOA with University of Hawaii as they blend the early college program with the creative media program. So a student who is at Waipahu High School who wants to entertain and get into the field of creative media can, take early college classes in high school and then enter UH West Oahu as a junior, spending only 2 years at the university level, and then they can move on to a career. Another part that we were doing is to build on this $500 million a year portion of our economy was with UH West Oahu. We were looking to partner with a private industry to build a state-of-the-art film facility, and this was all pre-COVID. So we understood and in the legislature we understood the importance of diversifying the economy. We always took it as there is a diverse economy, just certain areas need to become more robust. And one of the areas was creative media and film industry.
I see. Just you already knew it needed to be done. Just keep working towards that goal. Yeah. Well, as the vice chair of the Finance Committee, I think we should talk a little bit about the CARES Act funding. The legislature announced their plan last Friday, and there's a lot of people in need. Can you go over some of the highlights of what the plan for the CARES Act funds are?
Yes. So this afternoon we will be in conference committee as the House and the Senate has been really working on spend the allocation of the $635 million that was still left over that we put in the EBRF fund, and we are allocating it now because we wanted to take the time. We understand that in after July, as this current condition continues to stay in place, we wanted to be as we wanted to produce a product, from the legislature that could address many needs within the community. So, we allocated 230 million to the state enhanced weekly benefit. So that's the $100 extra when the $600 federal plus up for those with unemployment insurance. So that will help those individuals. We're going to put in an estimated amount of 100 million to the rental assistance to assist renters. And then we also have 100 million for sanitation supplies, PPE for small businesses, early childcare facilities, elderly childcare facilities, hospitals, nonprofits, and schools. Then you come into $36 million for where we focus on diversifying the economy again. So Hawaii Works program to promote job training for unemployed to assist, innovate, and then continue to diversify our economy. We will be putting in 15 million for manufacturing grants for local businesses. And then where every family has a need in childcare, we are going to allocate $15 million for early childcare. And then to touch upon at one of the big things about on people's minds is actually how are we going to do travel? And one of the things we worked on prior was, thermal screening at the airport. We're going to expand it to do an estimated funding of a $90 million. It's statewide. So you're going to have travel verification applications, contract for testing to promote safe travel because we want to bring travel back. But the main thing we want to do, James, is actually make sure that the public is safe and healthy because that's the main thing right now, making sure that we keep in mind the health and safety for our residents in the state of Hawaii.
Wow, it sounds like it's a complicated picture with a lot of people in need and keeping that safety net and funding the things in government that need to be done.
Yes, and one of the things is we're going to allocate $5 million to continue that, to ensure that we can have, if as we move through it in need, we can have food drops. We're partnering with Hawaii Community Foundation, which is a big community partner in this. And one thing we ought to keep in mind, James, is that without community partners, both on the private sector and in the public sector, many people are adjusting, and then many people, like I said, right, we are in this together kind of feel, and that's how it feels community wise, and that's what we're hearing, and that's what we're trying to keep moving in that direction.
Okay, so that's going to be in the conference committee today, and where does it go from there?
So after we hear it in the conference committee, it's an agreement, and then it'll head to the House floor for its final vote. So that timeline, just keep posted. You can track it on the Hawaii State Legislature website. And then we're also going to be streaming live on Olelo, something new we're doing right now. So, public can keep very engaged with what we're doing in the building.
And the public, that's an important point. The Capitol is closed, but the public can still participate in certain ways. How is that?
Yes. So, you can keep in mind, or you can monitor us on the legislative website. But all our committee hearings that we're doing here is on Olelo Live, even the conference committee and floor sessions. So, tune into your Olelo stations, and then you can continue to watch our progress here.
Okay, and I understand also if they go to the legislature's website, they can turn in testimony as well.
Yes, you can turn in testimony.
Okay, well, we're down to just a few seconds here, so I want to thank you for coming on and being our guest this morning. It's been very informative, and it's obviously you love your community. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Thank you, Olelo. Take it easy.
We'll see you all again next week for Live at the Legislature. Thank you.
What are you doing? We have to go. I'm gonna be late for work.
It's Tuesday morning. I gotta record Live at the Legislature on Olelo. Senate and House leadership discussing what's happening at the state capitol.
So just watch it on the news tonight. Come on, let's go.
Hey, this is like getting the news before it's news. If only I could get this remote to work.
There. Can we go now?
No DVR? No problem. Watch Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. on Channel 49.
Good morning and welcome back to this week's episode of Live at the Legislature. This week, after about a month off, the legislature has reconvened back into session, and joining us this morning is Representative Bob McDermott. He serves as the Assistant Minority Leader from from House District 40, which represents Eva Beach, and Representative Gene Ward, who serves as the Minority Leader, representing Hawaii Kai in House District 17. 17. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Kyle.
Rep. McDermott, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on being back in the session?
Well, first I want to thank all you folks who make this possible. Lello, you, Kaio, all the staff. 100 hands behind the scenes. People don't realize what it takes to pull this off. That said, it proved pretty prudent and wise to wait a certain amount of time before once we got that federal funding, instead of spending it all right away, because this delay has given us an opportunity to see the lay of the land, if you will, where the greatest needs are and some of those things. So I think it was prudent. Of course, there's a deadline where you have to spend the money by. So that's what we're going to be addressing today and tomorrow, this week, actually. So we will get there. It is still heartbreaking to see the families with you get these surveys that say, what is your most important concern for your constituent? And it used to be, okay, well, the school facilities are behind par. Now it's, I hope they have insurance. I hope they have food. We're not at that crisis yet, but some families are. And how do they pay their rent? And these are really surreal times. And we're doing the best we can with the tools we have. And one of the things that we need to do is to get the economy going again. And Gene and I started a plan probably 2 months ago now, where we laid out making Hawaii safe for travel. Since then, there's been a community consensus developing around that. Josh Green was out there early. UH Hero came in and basically said the same thing we did, but they have a ream of data to back it up. Ours was a policy framework. We don't have all those scientists and research analysts working in our offices. So there seems to be a community consensus that we want people tested prior to their travel here. 72 hours seems to be the number people have congealed around, which Gene and I put out there. And one of the things we have to remember is the visitor industry, the hospitality industry, those employees service those folks, and we have to keep them safe. And I'll turn it over to Gene here to amplify in just a moment, but they are going to deal with fresh viral loads of COVID every day if we don't test. I mean, we're not Kansas, we're not Detroit, you have a relatively stable population. Our population changes every day once we start ramping up our numbers.
All right.
So, Gene, why don't you take it from there?
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Am I on? And let's see. The technology says that I'm still looking at Rep. McDermott, but I don't have to see anybody. Okay, got it. First, notice Representative McDermott and Representative Wood are not wearing their ties. So we're not live at the ledge.
Not yet.
We are live at Eva Beach in Hawaii. I think that maybe is the first line of approach here. What we've got is a number of things going on today, conference committees particularly, and then, as Bob has alluded to, shoring up everybody's livelihood, trying to make something out of what otherwise there's a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. And our concern is, and I'm going to focus on what Bob just said about the travel industry, because we've got 100,000 workers, we've got $17 billion plus that's on the table. And either we're going to subsidize all those people not doing anything, or we're going to open our economy. This is really a test for leadership to not be overly sensitive to health and not be undersensitive to economics, or oversensitive to economics and undersensitive to health. It's really a test of leadership. Earlier, you mentioned the Kawakami plan. Kawakami is a double plan where you get tested in the airport, of which Bob and I said is going to be expensive and cumbersome. And then you go to a quarantine. Bob, they've got the quarantine right. You're going to be very specifically putting people aside and testing them after the 7th day. According to the Kauai plan, according to their numbers, they have 100 cases come through every 10,000 visitors. Bob, that's a pretty good hit rate. 100 out of 10,000. The way that and this is where I'm going to get a little bit critical. The bill that I saw that we're going to hear this afternoon basically says, DOH, you're in charge of testing. It doesn't specify what we're talking about, Bob, in terms of testing, the way Josh Green and the others that you mentioned. Before you get on the plane, you go to CVS or you go to Walgreens, you get tested, you get on the plane, you come here, you're not put into quarantine. What is in the bill that I'm going to be on the conference committee says basically DOH can do anything they want to do and they got all the money. Now, all of you know of the statements that have been made by the director of health, by the head of epidemiology. They are not for testing what Bob and I are talking about, or what Kawakami is talking about, or what even the Alaska plan. They have publicly come out and said this is not doable, this is not workable. But the irony is we're giving them all the money and all the authority. We're giving them emergency powers on top of the emergency powers they already have. So my fear is, we're not going to be able to get those people to have a beach of the food and the wages they want, or the people in all of the districts. We are going to be over biasing towards, well, we want to make this really tight. We're going to push thermal screening. And I heard yesterday when I got screened at the Capitol, they're going to do facial imagery. But we are not in Hong Kong. We are not in mainland China. We do not need to do facial imagery. And I heard that's what they're paying the money for to do at the airport. And actually the contractor who supposedly won has some connections with some of those nefarious those companies. So Bob, I'm bullish on that. You know, we started months ago on this. We wrote it down, first ever in the state of Hawaii. I was the one who opened through the White House. We got the green light to do this. Everybody, when we started out, said, hey, you can't do that, McDermott Ward. There's a DOT and FAA. Well, through the White House and through our GOP connections, we were able to get the green light to Hawaii. And I want you to dig up my tweet that preceded even when Ed Case announced that he had his letter from the DOT. Show that we have been a player in this. We're not going to get the credit. And I'm wondering what Ike is going to say this afternoon in terms of what he's going to do. Is it going to be a Kawakami plan, or is it going to be kind of a timid, tepid Anderson and epidemiology Sarah Parks plan? So those are a couple of openers by which this afternoon we'll see what's going on.
Yeah.
And so going based off of that, for the viewers at home, the governor is expected to announce a testing plan for travel that will likely require COVID-19 testing either before you arrive to Hawaii or at the airport. And so McDermott, I'll go back to you on that.
So as long as, you know, the quarantine has been effective in the sense that it's chased away visitors, it's kept it down. Now they're figuring out it's not a real quarantine, so they're starting to come back, and nobody comes to Hawaii to spend 2 weeks in their room. I mean, that's ridiculous. So, but if we educate them and say, look, you're going to come here and you've got to get tested before you depart, and it's got to be a good test, right? It's got to be a negative. If you show up and you're not tested, you will go to a real quarantine where you'll get a room with no hotel key or something like that. Kawakami Derek seems to have something figured out over there that works for them. They've got a lot less people that are going to come to them that are going to come through Oahu. I mean, at our top, we were 30,000 visitors a day, or travelers, I should say, travelers. So every traveler who comes in has to be tested prior to departure, or they got to pay for it when they get here. And if they fail, they're in a real quarantine, which they got to pay for. So that's where the Department of Health, I'm sure, doesn't want to, that they look at that and say, oh, it's too much work. Well, we have the opportunity because of our location and geography to keep our rates low. And we have the moral responsibility to our families and multi-generational families all living together to keep it low. And I just keep thinking about the poor people flying those airplanes, the flight attendants getting in, picking up a group of people in LaGuardia, New York, and they're not tested, you know, and she's going to bring the flight attendant's going to bring it home to her family. So those are my thoughts. But Gene, we've developed a consensus. I think LG Green, UH Hero, the law school, president of the law school,
Ophi,
yeah.
Safer, yeah.
I mean, everybody seems to understand that this makes sense. And the reluctance between Park and Bruce, I don't understand. I just don't.
But now, Bob, they got all the power and the money now, so I hope they're going to get a little bit of an understanding by osmosis. Hopefully.
Other than it's just too much work. I mean, they say, well, it's not 100%. Well, of course it's not 100%. That's not how they approach condom distribution in the schools, though, is it?
Bob, using your LaGuardia example, will it take somebody like Walter Riddy and Molokai where they have already said visitors go home and take your disease with you? Will it take some kind of an incident like that to wake up Park and Anderson? Who knows? I hope not,
Yeah.
but
I think that you can inevitably see, if we do not do this correctly, two things are going to happen. One, it's going to be a giant mess, and David's going to shut everything down again, because our capacity for healthcare is for a population of 1.2 million people, right, statewide. So, but we bring in these visitors every day, right? They add to the burden, and if they get stuck in the ICUs, they're taking the beds that would normally be going to local residents, right? Because normally when you come and you're on vacation, you're not going to get sick. You're not going to tax our local resources. So very quickly, the UH Hero report showed that the numbers could very quickly get us into a position where if we don't do it right, we're going to have problems with ventilators.
And Bob, overall, this is a real test of leadership. We need to know what policy is best for the people of Hawaii. And that is going to be really on trial for the next 2 to 4 weeks, because what we do when we open, we've got to do it right. Everything says the most conservative plan is the one that we're talking about, the one that Josh Green is talking about. And if they do short of that, just because they've got a medicinal background and a stovepipe perspective on this, we are going to be in deep kimchi. Now, I wish the best for Anderson and Park, but if they're going to have all the money and all the strength to do what they want to do, and they don't do this testing, I think we're going to start ending up killing our economy. And Bob, some of the things you said, we're going to end up killing people. And that is not what we were elected to do.
No, we've got to do it. And the thing is, it can be done right. We've laid the framework out. It's gonna, and if you add the National Guard into it, the military precision that's going to be required in some of the things, like the way we check in the building in the morning. People don't know the National Guard takes our temperature there, right? So it's not militarization of it, but they can be ordered and told to be at certain places where civilians cannot be treated in that particular way. As veterans, we both know that, right?
Oh, you got any other questions? Otherwise, Bob and I could talk on for 2 hours about what the economy is going to have happen here.
This is an issue that you both have been very passionate about, both in the House committee and on the floor. Unfortunately, we just ran out of time.
I wonder why.
So many things to talk
you've been talking.
I want to thank you both for joining us, and again, to Lello for all the work that they do behind the scenes. We will have a lot more to talk about next week. Aloha.
Okay. All right.
Aloha.
Thanks, Alelo. Thanks, Kyle.